Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. I am just allowing folks in. For those who may not know me, I'm Polly. I'm the founder of Black Women Photographers, and I'm so excited about today's guest. If you haven't already been in one of these before, feel free to drop in your location in the chat. I always love to see where people are tuning in from. It's so cool to see where people can join us virtually. Aspen in LA. Shelby, you're in Morocco. What? Okay, Shelby. Montreal, welcome. Dallas, Madrid, Toronto, Washington. This is incredible. Atlanta, Tampa. I love it. I love seeing where everybody's coming from. Brooklyn.
Brooklyn in the house.
Yes, Philly in the house as well. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited about today's guest. Hello, Detroit. Just allowing folks to trickle in. So get comfortable. Feel free to turn on your cameras. Just be mindful that we can also see you. But it's nice to see people's faces. And we will get started in a second. Miriam in Nigeria, welcome. It's only right that this is international because you call yourself an international photographer, and so it's all. um, okay, folks are still trickling in. Welcome, LA. Love it. So we have a whole hour with Mr. JD Barnes. I don't want to butcher your intro, so I'm going to read it from your bio. JD Barnes is a photographer who, although having lost complete vision in his right eye due to uveitis, takes pride in his ability to see beyond the typical, and in doing so, creates something special every time he picks up his camera. When not on an assignment, JD enjoyed spending time in Bushwick, New York, with his growing family, and his photographic style in two quotes. One is from Bruce Lee, but another one is from himself, where he says, "An artist walks by feeling, by emotion, by intuition. It's what separates us from the technicians of the world. There's no fear of wrong, only of mediocrity." And I am just so excited to have you join us. So thank you again for taking the time. How are you?
I'm good. Another Thursday in Brooklyn, New York.
Yes. So JD, where did it all start for you?
I'm from Montgomery, Alabama. So Southern born and bred. Yeah. I guess photography wise, I kind of grew up in a family, or my dad used to take pictures just of people. He really liked candid pictures. So I kind of grew up around, a couple cameras and things like that. But it wasn't until I was, I guess, in my late teens, early 20s that I kind of realized that I may like this. Um, I actually started off like modeling, and being from Montgomery, Alabama, and being perpetually broke at that age, I didn't have enough money to be trying to pay photographers. So um, every Black Friday, me and my friend, we would like, back then you like wait in line at Walmart for it to open, and I would go, like, he would go get video games, and I started buying cameras every year. Little Kodak, point and shoot. Um, I'm probably telling my age, but back then, like 10 megapixels was a lot. It's just like, oh man, it's got 10 megapixels, and it's got super zoom and, all these things. So for me, it kind of started trying to learn a camera enough so that I could give it to my friend to take pictures of me. So then I could like build my portfolio. Then it kind of went from there to like shooting other friends, shooting people when I was in college. Make an extra $50, $100 here or there. Went to shooting in the club. At one point in my life, I was the guy with the little printer on a table, and a little flash, shooting people in the club and
That's amazing.
printing their pictures out for like $5. So yeah, you definitely learn a lot about lighting fairly quickly, trying to make $5 off of a picture. So, but yeah, that was kind of the beginning.
That is incredible. I think everyone has one of those moments that probably that's where it started for them, like that. I mean, looking back, did you ever think that, now you'd be, photographing covers? Like, did you ever think that along that journey that it took you to this point?
I mean, up until that, like at that point, no. Of course, you don't you're not thinking about that. You're just trying to, I guess kind of find your way in the art form. And like I said, like at that point, like my interest was like very like wholly on like modeling and like trying to figure that out. And photography was just kind of a means to like that end.
Mm.
Um, so I ended up moving a couple times trying to pursue the modeling. Eventually, I ended up here in New York, and then like that led me to Europe. I did a fashion week in Milan and in London as a model, but I always had my camera, and around that time I started kind of figuring out that hey, you can't model forever. Uh, it's not, unfortunately, it's very rarely one of those careers that last forever. So, I started kind of trying to shift and just thinking like, all right, so um, what am I going to do after this? And for me, photography became something that just kind of made sense. I could, shift over to that. I could still keep all of the relationships that I had built, and the people that I had met, and just kind of go there. So, at that point, like my focus started changing, and it's like, all right, like I really like this fashion thing. I'm a pursue that, fashion portraiture, shooting models. Um, and at that point, you're just learning the craft. Like I'm not classically trained. I learned on the venerable YouTube University.
Mhm.
That and just a lot of repetition in shooting and in Photoshop and um, looking at people who inspired me and trying to emulate the things that they were doing, which then that eventually blossoms into, instead of emulating, like you're figuring out why you like certain images. Like what is it about this photographer or that photographer that inspires you, that makes you say, man, this is good. Starting to break down images. You developing the eloquent eye. So just trying to continue to hone the craft. I mean, anybody in the room who like knows me personally, I'm really committed, to photography. I'm really committed, and that commitment is what helps take you past the marks of just like decent and good and like mediocre. It it
Mhm.
it takes you to the levels that you want to go. But with anything in the arts, like your commitment is like, at least to me, is like the key. If you're not really committed to the craft, then the craft's not going to give back a whole lot. And um if you're okay with where you're at, then that's where you'll stay. And I've never been really okay with where I've been at. Even now, it's a constant striving for better. And that's what keeps driving me now.
I hope everyone heard all of that. I think you just said some very powerful words, and it's so true. I really loved what you just had to say about commitment and having that consistency, and how, if you don't put in that effort, I mean, it is what you get out of it, right? And so, thank you for that. I guess my next question then, what would you say would be the hardest part of making that transition, that switch? Was it learning, the learning curve? And I know you said shout out to YouTube University, but what was the hardest part for making that transition from model to photographer, and then having that consistency, when you're learning through your craft?
It's a good question. I think probably the hardest part is probably dealing with the frustration of, like not being where you want to be. Um, because there's a period of time where you just haven't put in enough repetition to really know like why my images aren't turning out the way that I see them in my head, or you don't know how to break down an image that you love to kind of figure out lighting, or you don't know how much retouching like plays a part into the finished image of like some of the quote unquote great photographers. um so you're trying to do this stuff like in camera. um uh, I remember specifically, like I was looking at some like Murder Marcus images, it's probably like 10 years ago. And like they were booming then, and like they had these like super saturated like blue skies, and the skin, like this like color balance, and like you're thinking like, man, because they're great photographers, it must be looking like that coming out the camera. So you're trying to like expose for these like crazy skies, and them skies just ain't there, and everything else is in shadow. You're like, maybe I can pull the shadows up to kind of like compensate, and it's not happening, and you're just frustrated. It's like there's a it takes time to just like really understand the craft, and really understand that the people that you respect and emulate, like they know the shortcuts and secrets, but you don't come out knowing those. I think a lot of the newer generation, or just newer photographers, um, they want to skip steps. um like they want to buy a camera, and then like 3 months later they want to shoot for Vogue, and it's just like, it doesn't work like that. Beyond the politics of it, it just doesn't work like that. Like you need those proverbial 10,000 hours, to really be a master at your craft. And those 10,000 hours, some more, some less, but those hours have to be intentional hours. Like they can't just be shooting, just like shooting to shoot. Can't just be just walking around shooting to shoot, unless you're thinking of something specific that you're going for. um and you're putting in that like mental power to like push, like what you're trying to do. So yeah, just like kind of getting to that place of just like really understanding, like there are no like real shortcuts to success in art, and the people that you think, a lot of times have taken shortcuts, like it almost always comes back. Like they almost always hit a wall somewhere, because you just can't really shortchange it.
Again, some really, really, really great advice right there, and some truth that I think we often forget about. Because I think when you hear you say that, my first thing that comes to mind is like on social media, all you see is like the highlight reel. All you see is people dropping the cover after cover,
Right,
or this shoot or
right,
that shoot, and so it's so easy to get caught up in that, and so easy to forget that this person, you don't even know what they had to do to get to this moment. Yes, Lex Clark says in the chat, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that is so true. So for you then, how do you remain so focused? Like, I think everyone has their own why, and you mentioned your driving force, but how do you like remind yourself, you know, earlier on maybe than when you were maybe playing that comparison game, or maybe you were never playing that comparison game, I don't know, but how do you just have that, I guess, such a focus and being able to remind yourself that, okay, there is a process and I have to trust this process?
Well, I go back, there definitely was a time of comparison, for sure. I don't think you can help it, like with social media and just looking at magazines, looking at just trying to devour as much, information as you can, for sure. You're going to compare, and you're going to ask like, why is my work not this good? Like I kind of see it as like almost like rungs on a ladder, where you get to a place where you're proficient, and then you get to a place where you feel like you're good. And then sometimes you slip and you go back, because like you feel like you're good, but you're still not getting opportunities, and that's like frustrating. And then you start questioning yourself, like, am I good? Like the people who are telling me I'm good, are they even qualified to tell me I'm good? Like what's their background to even say like that you're great? You start kind of like, like playing these mind games with yourself. But like art to me is kind of like golf, and I'm sure a lot of people probably haven't like played golf, but like golf is a singular sport. Yeah, you're competing, but you're playing against the course. You're not really playing against the other players. Like nothing you do can affect them, and nothing that they do can affect you. Um, like you have to have your own like mental strength in your own game to, overcome whatever challenges present themselves, and, score as well as you can. But that's all you can control. And, I think in art, it's kind of the similar thing, like if you take too much time like looking at other people, um, you're gonna get lost in like what they're doing. Um, and you're not going to be focused on what you're doing. So um, to answer your question about focus, I think that early on, I had a couple of people who really drove home the point, what I'm saying, man, let your work speak for you. That's why, even before this, I was telling you, so I don't really do a whole lot of interviews and things. You know, I like to stay in the lab. I like to create, and I mean, like, there's side effects to that, sometimes personal relationships suffer, like sometimes there's other things in life that, maybe don't get done. But, like a singular focus is always going to be, you know, it's always going to have positives and negatives. But if it's worth it to you, then, like you'll drive to meet that goal. So for me, I guess just keeping focus, it's just something that I strive to do. It really stays on my, stays at the top of my mind. Also, I'm like insanely competitive. Um, and it's funny because especially these days, I hear a lot of like on Clubhouse, back when I was on Clubhouse a lot, and don't front, all of us had that moment where he's on Clubhouse a lot.
I'm not afraid. That's why I'm keeping quiet, because I know.
you know, but like there's like this driving thought of just like, hey, like it's enough work out there for all of us, like we don't have to be, we don't have to compete against ourselves, and like there's like pieces of that that's absolutely true, 100%. I want all of us to win, 100%, but like, I want to win harder, just be honest, like I want it as bad as anybody else, worse than anybody else, um, you know, one of my favorite basketball players, Kobe Bryant, is, because even when he was great, he wanted to be greater. And he put the work in, to be great. He wasn't trying to take nobody's money, take nobody's position, anything like that. Like, he was just doing, like, his thing, but his thing was to be great. And for me, what I'm saying, like, that's all I want is greatness, and I can't be great if I'm not competing, so that competition keeps me focused.
Oh man, that Mamba mentality. It all makes sense now.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh my goodness, this is the energy I think we all needed to start the month. So in the second quarter, so thank you, JD. I want to dive into some of your work. It's, like you said, it speaks for itself. I'm just on your site right now, and I don't know, is there a particular, photo, a cover that really speaks to you that maybe is your favorite, that you can walk us through the process of like how it came to be?
Huh. Of these six you have up, I mean, probably that Lizzo cover is my favorite. I have to give a shout out to Essence, shout out to Tracy Woods, actually. Tracy brought me
Tracy,
on
I think
to
Tracy might actually be in here right now.
this, and I appreciate her. I appreciate Moana Liu, who was the then CCCO of Essence, for pretty much all of these covers. Um, but yeah, like this cover specifically, because it was my first shoot with Essence ever, and yeah, Lizzo was just so cool. She was such a very like dope person to shoot. She didn't come in with any of that like celebrity, those aspersions that a lot of times they have. She just allowed me to do my thing. And I mean, this was one of the last shots of the day. She had the dress on, which is like, I believe, a couture piece. And I think at one point, actually the shoot was like over. And I think her hairstylist maybe was taking a picture of her, and she was um I think she was maybe sitting down or something like that. And I just saw like, wait, we can shoot this, like maybe shoot this from the top, So like everybody's all like starting to pack up, and I was just like, wait, let me, like, where's the ladder? So we get a ladder, and I'm just like lay back. And I had the set designer, it's like, first we took some shots like just solo, just with her. And it's like, maybe if we put a couple of these branches around, and he, really arranged it. I kind of helped, like make the shape. And yeah, I remember I was holding my camera at like arm's length, trying to get the right angle, and get the ladder out of the shot. And just kind of like just trying to focus and just like take shots, looking at them, just kind of trying to figure out the right angle. And yeah, we ended up landing on this shot. Took like maybe 10 minutes tops. And that ended up being a cover. So, and that kind of started that whole Essence journey, for me. And I just really appreciate, them for giving me the opportunity. So yeah, that's my favorite.
That is so funny that this would be like the last part of the day and it ends up being the cover.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned Tracy. For those who may have missed our conversation with Tracy Woods, It is available to replay, so please do check it out. I'll drop the link in the chat because Tracy is a wealth of knowledge and really spoke to how to get your photos seen, how to, if you want to pitch to a publication like Essence, how you go about it, and that kind of thing. So just want to put that out there. Do you remember the first time you started, working with artists, celebrities? Like, what was there anything that you really had to like prepare for? You mentioned Lizzo as someone who is more relaxed, and it come with that, like, I don't know, like, I'm the artist, and or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to say diva, but how you think artists may be, allowed you to direct her, all that stuff. But was there anything that you had to do maybe to prepare? Did you know that this is something that you'd eventually want to do?
Um, it's funny, man. Like on any given day, I would prefer probably 100% to shoot models. Like that's really like my thing. I just find models easy to work with, and I relate to models better. But as far as celebrities, honestly, I I treat them like regular people as much as they allow me to. I'm not a person that's starstruck or anything else like that. And I also think it's like really important for a photographer not to be, starstruck or a fan in that moment, because this isn't about like trying to be cool with somebody. It's really about, pushing to make like great imagery with this person. Um, and if you're not focused, then like those are the moments that you miss your shots. Those are the moments that you look back on and it's like, damn, I messed that one up, you know. And we just don't want, like, as a photographer, you want to take advantage of all your opportunities because you never know. I mean, like when we shot Lizzo, like this was before Lizzo was like the Lizzo. Like she was just Lizzo. She didn't have like that number one, what I'm saying, hit. She literally got it like that. I think like that next week or like 2 weeks after, you know. So you just never know where a person is going to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to put your best foot forward, as much as possible. So that, like you have work that you're proud of always.
Absolutely. Corinne in the chat asks, how do you get them to be comfortable on this set? I mean, you mentioned that you treat them like they're just, regular people because they are humans. But is there anything that you do to get them comfortable on set?
Honestly, man, like I'm super chill. Like I'm a child of the South, like I'm super laid back. So I think like just having great energy, first off is like essential. Because people will kind of feed off your energy. And the funny thing about celebrities is a lot of times like they're very like self-conscious, so you have to make sure that they know that they're like doing a great job, and that you appreciate them, but also staying out of their face so much, like staying out of their way. When I get on set with a celeb, obviously, you do your intro. But after that, like, I don't generally interact too much with them. Like, I'm not in the background trying to shoot the shit, what I'm saying, too much, unless they give me that energy, unless they want to talk. And then, yeah, sure, we could talk. But, sometimes you can just kind of feel the energy, and I've had celebs that are like super chill and super cool, and we laugh and we joke, and we can be real people. And then I've shot celebs who are very standoffish, and their comfort level is within their team and, like with the people that they already feel comfortable with, that they've built a relationship with, and they're not trying to build a relationship with you. And you have to like know the difference, You know, everybody's not trying to like build a relationship. Everybody's not trying to like work multiple times, et cetera. Like, you know, so those are things that you can't always control.
Mhm.
Um, so you have to work on the things that you can control. And you can control like making sure that you're prepared, making sure that your lighting is, you know what I'm saying, like where you want it to be, making sure that once they hit that set, then you take them first series of shots that they're able to see that like, oh man, this looks amazing. You know, so many times like just getting to that place where you want to be with a celebrity is them knowing that the shot is amazing. You know, because when they see that, they chill out. You know, it's like, okay, he's a pro. You know, he got it. You know, you can be as cool as you want to be. You could be fan, they could be signing autographs and all that. But if them first few shots is trash, yeah, the day gonna be hard. Because that's what they thinking about. Like, boy,
Right.
then they thinking about, did I pick the right photographer? Did the magazine pick the right photographer? Like the work I've seen from this person, like were they just lucky? You know,
Mhm.
so like, and then it starts becoming harder to, work with a person. They don't want to give
Mhm.
you as much. So, for me, like that's the biggest thing, being proficient in your work. And once you do that, then a lot of times a lot of that stress gets alleviated because they look good, they know they look good, they feel good, the energy's good, have some good music playing, crack some jokes if they allow it, and just have fun.
Thank you, thank you. Some questions are coming in. Ronika asks, she says, beautiful work. Can you talk a little bit more about your lighting setups and philosophy? Do you have any favorite types of modifiers or type of strobes?
My lighting philosophy is very fluid. A lot of times, obviously, a magazine or editors or clients, like they want to know kind of like what your lighting is going to be, or they send you references, things like that. So you try to get to a place with your lighting where you could hit the reference. But for me, sometimes you get on set and like just see it differently. um and I think at that point it's great to trust your instincts. Some sets you go to and you have to like really craft your lighting, like you have to really shape it the way it needs to be shaped, or you're dealing with a concept or a set design that like really requires that. And then sometimes you're on a set and walk into a studio and it has like amazing natural light, and it just happens to be that way. Like it's just like that day the sun's coming through a skylight or an open door or something, and it's just like, wow, this is amazing. And like I'm not rigid when it comes to my lighting. I like to experiment and I like to try different things. So I think that's why if you look at my work, you don't necessarily see like, okay, this is his go-to too much. And I like that. Like I don't like being defined by like a specific style. I just like it being excellent. And all lighting doesn't work for all people. All lighting doesn't work for all dresses or pieces of fashion or faces, facial shapes, etc. So I think when you're rigid, then you just put yourself in a box, and I'm not trying to be in a box. As far as modifiers, the sun through a window is a amazing modifier that I do love. um, Outside of that, I really have an affinity for and a love-hate relationship at times with the Elechrome 74-inch indirect Octa box or Octa bank. Um, it's just one of those lights that if you're having a like, you can almost always get good light out of that. Uh, it can get very boring, you know, so you have to really kind of know how to feather it or move it around or when not to use it. But, you know, if you're in a pinch, you know, that's something that I always order, you know, from my EQ, is that, just so I know at the end of the day I can get, you know what I'm saying, like great shots. But beyond that, there's a lot of modifiers that I kind of like play with, that I make, that I modify myself. You know, taking various things, kind of seeing the quality of the light, using them in ways that, you know, maybe they weren't designed to be used, but I mean, this is art. So, you know, you kind of learn the rules and then you try to break them.
Thank you for explaining that process. On a similar note, there's a question in the chat from Xavier asking, what is your editing process like? Do you have a workflow, or is it pretty fluid like your lighting process? And then, of course, what people may always ask you, if you are ever accepting photo assistants or anything like that, what do you look for when bringing someone on set?
Editing process. So these days I don't edit much. I just don't have the time. But when I did edit a lot, excuse me, I use Capture One. I kind of try to get my colors and things set in Capture One. I bring it over to Photoshop. I'm very fond of the frequency separation technique, as far as retouching. But you know, with everything, I tweak, you know, all of these, you know, like processes, you know, to really get the feel that I'm looking for. Um, I'm not afraid to use, you know, third-party plugins, you know, to get me closer to, you know, various like contrast or you know, um, color grading, you know, various things like that. As long as at the end of the day, my skin feels natural, and I can look at the image, walk away from it, come back to it, and I'm still happy with it, then like I'm good. But I can't recommend enough, you know, like putting in the time and the energy to like find a good retoucher, and you know what I'm saying, like paying the money to use them. Um, Most photographers aren't actually like good retouchers. You know, the same way most retouchers aren't like great photographers. It's somewhat of a different skill set. Um, a lot of times photographers do retouching because, you know, we don't want to spend the money. But to do really great retouching, you've got to spend the time. Um, and sometimes that time is worth a lot more than the dollars.
Mm.
You know, like, because that's time that's taken away from creating, from pre-production on another project, on just being able to, you know, get to a good place mentally, especially if you don't like retouching, you know. So, you know, and I've been in that situation where I've just been overwhelmed with like shoots, because I can shoot every day, and then, you know, you don't have the energy to retouch. It starts piling up on you, and you know, things fall through the cracks, or you start not doing the best job you could do. You know, so instead of doing that, man, just like find a great retoucher, you know, pay for it. Um, and I guarantee you, when you're paying for images, you know, like you're gonna look harder to find the best images. You know, it's gonna be less of this expectation of like, you know, I shoot with somebody, they don't get 30 edited images back. You know, that's just not reasonable when you paying for it. You know, that 30 turns to, you know, 5 or 3 really, really good ones versus 30 all over the place shots. You know, so that's kind of how I think about it. As far as assistants, you know, I'm actually in the market for some assistants.
Oh, okay.
As,
This is why you got to do more interviews. You can let the people know these things.
but you know, like for me, an assistant is really, you know, because I didn't assist much. In fact, there's only one photographer that I ever really assisted. You know, I've got on set with a couple friends, you know, and helped them out and things. But as far as assistant, it was Dana Scruggs. Like, and Dana's my girl,
Oh
and you know,
man.
like that's
Oh,
she's a extremely special person, you know, for me. And you know, me and her have been through the trenches together, you know, been through the mud. Um, but when I assisted her, the only thing that I was really concerned about was like while I was on set with her was making sure that she shined. You know, like it wasn't about me, it wasn't about nothing else. It was about like make sure that the light that she needs is there. Anything that she is going to ask for is there. You know, you learn to anticipate like what a person needs. And, you know, so when I'm looking for an assistant, I'm looking for that. You know, I'm looking for someone who isn't just trying to like take to then like dip off. You know, I'm looking for someone who is trying to like really learn what I like, you know, learn how to make this production the best. Um, who's available, who wants to put the work in as far as like learning lighting, because like an assistant to just move lights around for me isn't like that valuable. Um, just by time I can explain to you what I want, I have done it, you know. But someone who I can think with, someone who I can, you know, in between shots, I can look at them and I'll be like, man, this I ain't feeling this, man. Like I need some help, you know, and they can actually offer help. You know, they can actually say, you know, maybe we need to take this modifier off. You know, already had this other one set up. Let's kind of play with this. You know, let's add this light to it on the shadow side. Just add a little, you know, shadow detail. Maybe that'll help in the edit. Like it's like small things that you just learn um as you're like learning the style that the photographer that you're assisting, you know what I'm saying, likes to do, or you learn their quirks. Shit, I mean, even learning how to read their energy, you know what I'm saying, and being able to pull them to the side and give them a little pep talk real quick. You know, maybe things ain't going well, but you got it. You know, it's small things like that. You know, so like that's what I'm looking for in an assistant. You know, so and y'all can do that and holla.
thank you, JD. We're almost close to time, so if you have any burning questions for JD, please do drop them in the chat. Daza, I hope I'm saying your name right, asks, hi JD, how many times were you forced into a box with your creativity, and how do you get around those who stifle your inner spirit?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Um, how do I get it? I'm going to answer it backwards. How do I get around those who stifle my inner spirit? Um, I always think about this, you know, no matter what happens on set that day, when the images come out, your name is going to be on it and people are going to look at you know. And we see examples of that. I mean, like, look at Tyler with the Kamala Harris shoot, you know, the guy who shot Meg Thee Stallion for Bizarre. You know, like people's opinions, they tend to, you know, like drift towards the photographer, you know, like, so what does that tell you? It's like the photographer, you know, is going to like take the fall for bad concepts, you know what I'm saying? Like bad lighting, obviously, bad retouching, like all those things is our fault. No one is going, man, that retoucher was trash, or you know, like no one's saying, man, like this editor picked really bad images, because no one knows what the other images are. All they see is what came out, you know. So you have to keep that in the forefront, like no matter what these other people are like doing. And you know, sometimes it's the celeb that's just not on board with you. They're just not trying to rock with you. And it's like pulling teeth, you know, but you have to kind of come out of yourself and put your personal, issues and feelings aside, because, and obviously I'm not saying let nobody step on you, but, as long as it's not disrespect and it's just like creative differences, then, you have to find ways to work around that. And I mean, like, that's the politics, and that's the that's the people side of this, job. To be a really great photographer, you have to be great with people, because if they don't trust you, you're not going to get like real interactions. If they don't like you, obviously you're definitely not going to get real interactions. You're probably also not going to get the job again. It's a lot of mediocre photographers out there that get booked every week, sometimes 2 or 3, 4 times a week. They got summer houses, and they're not even that dope. And all of us, I don't like, it's not a name thing because it's all subjective, but everybody in this room has seen work, and you'd be like, I could have did that. Like, I don't understand, like, what I don't understand how they get these opportunities. You know what I'm saying? But like, then you have to think about, like, it's personal relationships. A lot of people, it's personal relationships. Like, they're good people, and people rock with them. So, and they do the job proficiently enough that that brand or that client, wants to keep working with them because they enjoy working with them. So it's just that personal, part of it. Forcing out the other part of that question, forced into a box. Yeah, I think you're always, in a sense, trying to be at least steered into a box, if not forced. It's very rarely you're going to get on set and they're just going to be like, hey man, you just do your thing. Those are rare, glorious days, but for the most part, people are trying to, take you where they think the image needs to go. And just to mention Dana again, when I assisted her, she really helped me learn that. Like, and I love Dana for this. Like, Dana gonna get the shot she won't. That's Dana. Like, you could be in her ear talking about you need this kind of shot. She be like, okay. But she is working on the shot that she sees in her head because she trusts her vision over their vision, And I think as an artist, as a photographer, you have to know that your vision for a project, is going to be ultimately what the client really wants. And obviously you get what the client wants as well, but always make sure to get what you want too. Because I'm telling you, 4 out of 5 times, they'll ask you for a certain thing, and then like you'll get a couple shots off the side of kind of like what you wanted to do, and they'll see it and they'll be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yes, like this is it. Let's do more of that. And it's like, boy, if I didn't have the confidence in myself to like just push a little bit, you would have never got that. If I was just doing what you wanted, you would have never got those shots. And I may not have been hired again, even though I gave you exactly what you said you wanted. Maybe what you want is boring. Maybe what you want isn't actually going to resonate, so like trust your own vision.
Man, I'm gonna have to like ask you for advice, everyone. I love this.
I'll at me, Polly.
I'm like, you are like speaking to me like, I'm like, I forgot there's other people in here, but okay, thank you. Adonosola asks, hey JD, what advice do you have for creating a go-to creative team, hairstylists, makeup, etc.?
Energy. All about energy, man. Like, you can get the best hairstylists and best makeup artists, best stylists, but if you don't really rock with them and they don't really rock with you, then you're not gonna have a good day. I think energy is the most important thing. You energy and synergy. Like, the whole team has to be able to get on the same page, and trust each other. And that doesn't always come like right away, but good energy is no excuse for that not to come right away. you know. Sure, it takes, you know, it takes us a little time to learn each other and learn what we really like. The people that I work with kind of know how I like to shoot. I know how they like to do hair, makeup, you know. Most people know, you know, if you're a makeup artist, like I ain't never gonna ask for no bubblegum pink lip or no, you know, like I like things more to the natural side. You know, that's just how I am. Um, I like my styling a certain kind of way, you know. And that's why I tend to work with like the same or similar people like over and over again, because we've been in those trenches, you know. I also feel like it's like really important as it becomes to team building, like don't clout chase, you know, just because someone popping, you know, on the gram, you know, and they got a, you know, 50, 100,000 followers and things like that, doesn't mean that like they're going to necessarily take your work to the next level. um a lot of times it's the people who are like at the same level that you're at, but as hungry and who have the desire, that they're the ones who actually want it. They're the ones who are going to see you at the same worth, you know, value that you see them, you know, and then y'all bond, you know. But to have people who are like way up there, you know, like maybe they don't see you as that same, you know, like value, you know, so they just kind of going through the motions, and you know, leave the set disappointed. um so yeah, as far as team building, like I think that's the most important thing.
Mm. Thank you, thank you. Another question. This one's from Lachelle. As you upgraded in your career, was it hard for you to come up with new prices for your services?
Yeah, man, pricing has always been difficult, you know. For me, you know, and I just recently got an agent, and I couldn't be happier. um I think a lot of times there's this like misconception of like, "Nah, I don't understand why they taking like 15, 20% out of my money. You know, like I don't need them for that." It's not necessarily that you need them for, you know, you need them to be the buffer. It's a lot of jobs that I've taken in the past that I know I was getting killed on the price, you know, but you feel sorry for people. I mean, especially me being a Black man, you know, and someone calls you and they're telling you half of their life story, and you know, they want to do this, and you know, like they're putting these things that only got $300, and you know this like a $2,000 job. It's just like, but then you don't want to disappoint somebody, you know, like I've been following you for 5 years, and your work just inspires me, and you know, it you know, I'm not as tough as I should be, you know. So, you know, there's things that you tend to, you know, sometimes get yourself into that the day before the shoot, you're like, man, why in the world did I agree to that? But uh I think that as you grow in your career, your price, you know, is really important. A good friend of mine told me, you know, the best price is what people are willing to pay. Um, and sometimes we'll like see, you know, like forums or like websites, and they'll like try to break down to you what you should be charging for your services. You know what I'm saying? But have you taken into consideration, because they haven't, but have you taken into consideration like where are you shooting? Like what's the income range of the people that you're dealing with? You know, what kind of work are you trying to do? Are you really putting out like that level of work? Would you pay for your own work? Um, like those are important questions, you know, because you could think that you're worth $1,000, and you may absolutely be worth $1,000, but maybe you're in Wisconsin and folks just ain't got $1,000 to pay for a photo session, you know, so you're gonna sit and not make no money and feel like you're not good, you know, while you know, and I've heard this before. It's like, I don't understand, like the dude that's charging 150, like he got all the people, you know, he just cheap. It may not be that he necessarily cheap, you know, or that his work is cheap. It just may be that he's found a sweet spot of value in that area, you know. So, you know, I think those are things that we all have to be cognizant about, you know, as far as setting our prices. Now, if you're in a major market, if you're, you know, at the level that you're, that you're aspiring to be, you can travel, you know, there's absolutely certain rates that are somewhat standardized, and one thing that I always try to do, when a client wants to shoot, I always ask them what their budget is, just to get a sense of like, okay, like what are you expecting to pay? And if it's a client, like a brand or something like that, okay, like what's your budget? Cool. Then I try to quickly calculate what's 20% more than that. And then I come back with that, because they're never going to give you their top price. They're always going to like have a little bit left over that they'll spend, so, it's your job to try to get the best value that you can get for your work. So, day of, day after, you're just not feeling like you got taken advantage of. Like, that's the worst.
Mm-hmm. Some good examples. And we actually have someone in Wisconsin who says, hey, you're right.
My bad. Shout out to
So
Wisconsin.
That's so true. As someone who grew up in Kansas, like it's the same thing. I couldn't even be able to charge that.
Back in Alabama, no way. No way.
No way.
It's not possible.
There are 3 more questions I hope we could try and power through, because I know we're running short on time, but I really love these 2 questions. Candace asks, what's next? Is it becoming a teacher of the YouTube Academy, a photo book, etc.? Like, what is next for you?
You know what, man? Y'all are probably never gonna see me on a YouTube channel. Like, I'm just not that guy, like I value person-to-person communication like way too much, and as you see, I like to, once you get me talking, I can talk, so for me, it's nah, like I'm not a YouTube guy. I'm not a huge like classroom type teacher, whatever like that. Like I still don't feel like I've gotten to where I want to be, so I don't want to teach like I'm like way up here, and I'm not way up there in the grand scheme of things, once I get there, and I will get there, like once I get there, then we can revisit this. And then like maybe there will be some opportunities to, what I'm saying, teach and things like that. But for me right now, man, like I'm still focused on, crushing this work.
Thank you. Jessica asks, not photo related, but your thought process is incredibly enlightening. Any favorite books, music, podcasts, etc., that's something outside of photos that is inspiring you lately?
I mean, I love music. Huge Drake fan. I'm not even gonna hold you. Uh, but yeah, like honestly, like soul music, old school music is like really where like where I like vibe. Jazz, what I'm saying, it's where I vibe. Really good hip hop, great lyrics. As far as anything else, art, like art really inspires me. There's a series on Netflix about design, and it's like amazing, just to get inside other artists' processes, and just how they think. Obviously sports and, like a Kobe Bryant, his Mamba mentality, competition, things like that, themes like that, like they really, speak to me. And then just like learning more about fashion, like fashion history and, various things like that. So that when you get on set, if you are trying to be a fashion photographer, and seeing the fabric, seeing the cuts, you kind of have a historical context of like how they're best shot, and then you can kind of work from there. So, yeah.
And then 2 more questions. So Elsie asks, how often, like how much time are you often given on set? But in addition to that, let's say you do have a bad photo, how do you turn it around for the client if, not every shoot is a good shoot?
Yeah, that's a good question. Ask the first part of that question again. I'm sorry.
How much time, do you have on set? Because sometimes we think that, these set days, you may have hours, well, maybe you may have 20 minutes with the person,
You know what? That's always something that you kind of have to balance. sometimes you really do have hours. They book a full 8-hour day, but then like the client or the celeb spends 5 hours in makeup, and then you still got to get through like 8 looks. So like all them looks start getting compressed. You know, one way I get, excuse me, one way that I get through it, you know, earlier I had mentioned like certain lighting modifiers, certain lighting setups that you already kind of feel comfortable with. And you can kind of get into those sets, and you know the images are going to be good because you know the lighting setup. You know, they may not be exactly what you want, but you know, like sometimes it's good for that first look or the first couple of looks to just get good images. You know, get proficient images, you know, get them comfortable. And then you can kind of start tweaking, you kind of start moving things in, moving things out, you know, playing with it. But yeah, you know, you always have to be, you know, kind of cognizant of like time. And usually you'll have a producer that makes sure that you're cognizant of time. And what was the second half of the question?
You know, let's say it's one of those just bad days, you know, how do you turn it around for the client? How do you save it, I guess, when it just didn't go as planned?
You can control what you can control. One thing that you can generally always control is, you know, like your lighting and your attitude. If you're at, you know, at least if you're in a controlled environment, like you can control your lighting. You can make sure that your lighting is at the very least decent, at the very least to a place where a retoucher can, you know what I'm saying, like clean it up and like make it work for you. And your attitude. A lot of times, the only way people know things are bad is because your attitude becomes bad. You start getting frustrated. And you know, like sometimes they're looking at the screen and it's like, I don't even understand why why they upset. This looks good, you know, because art is subjective. Like all of this photography is subjective. So sometimes your worst day, your worst picture for somebody is like beautiful and they're happy. So keep your energy, you know what I'm saying, good. Keep your energy flowing. Um, get back to the fundamentals of certain things, you know, certain angles, certain lighting, you know what I'm saying, like setups and ratios, like you can control that. Now, the rest of the team, someone coming late or you're not getting the fashion that you wanted or that the client, you know, wanted, things like that, those are out of your control, you know, so you can't take on that like stress. You know, you can only do what you can do. I think once you know, my saying is, it is what it is, you know. So like once you get that mindset, like you don't too much let that, you know, control your work.
That's so good. And lastly, I dropped this in the chat for people to check out. JD was interviewed for Adobe, for Adobe's Create magazine. And one of the things that you said really like stood out to me. I just thought it was so powerful. You said, ultimately, when people think of photography and of Black photographers, I want my name to be in that sentence. Um, do you feel like, you know, your name is already in that sentence? Because I would think so, but I mean, since you have that mama mentality, maybe you feel like you're not there yet.
I never feel like I'm there yet. I kid you not. Like I have really close friends that's like, Jay, man, you're way too hard on yourself, you know what I'm saying, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, nah, like I have to be like this. You know, like I can't take my foot off the gas. I'm not gonna take my foot off nobody's necks, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Always
because you
applying
know,
pressure.
keep applying pressure. And it's funny because I wrote that probably a year and a half ago. That was some pre-COVID. And like I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day, and it was just like, it's for me, it's not about just like the top Black photographers. Like I need to be mentioned in like that sentence of the top photographers, period. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like take color out of it. You know, like when people mention top golfers, it's Tiger. You know what I'm saying? And then all this, like it's top tennis players, Serena, you know what I'm saying? And then there's some others. You know, it's like you're not thinking about them as like top Black because they are the top. They have killed everybody, you know. So for me, like it's the same mentality, you know, like Black people is built to like conquer. We like you could put us in a sport like golf and we become number one in the world for like 10 consecutive years, or like tennis, like these sports, these venues and these businesses that aren't even historically Black, but you give us an opportunity and we kill it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why can't photography be the same thing? You know, like they shut us out from like major publications and major opportunities for 100+ years, you know, when it came to photography. And like now is our time. So, you know, they cracked the door out. We owe it to ourselves to kick it in.
Mm. Oh, that energy. Yes, yes, yes. And then one last follow-up that you just made me think of, when you are applying that pressure though, how do you factor in rest?
Oh God, boy. Okay. Now we see you you running out of time, Polly.
I'm already over time. I'm so sorry. I've been so good.
No, you good. You good. I'm just playing with you. Um, you know, like
But I'm selfishly asking because
I struggle with that.
I'm great at giving advice, but how do I actually apply it?
I struggle with that, you know. Honestly, where I'm at right now is I'm trying to figure out exactly how much sleep do I actually need,
Mm.
you know, and that's coming from like, you know, like Oprah, like she sleeps like 4 hours a night, but that's what she needs. Like she will wake up in 4 hours and be good. And that sounds crazy to, you know what I'm saying? Most of us strong 8 to 10, you know, as much as possible. But like maybe our body doesn't need that. And like that's a discipline issue, you know. So just trying to find that sweet spot of like, okay, like how do I feel at like 6 hours? How do I feel at 8 hours? You know, how do I feel at 5 hours? Am I okay? Like, you know, different things like that. Trying to find that like good ground where like I can still be extremely productive, and get done what I need to get done, not feeling too groggy, you know, sluggish, depressed. A lot of times lack of sleep takes you to that depressed state, you know what I'm saying? The same way too much sleep will make you just not want to do nothing, you know. So it's just finding a balance.
JD, thank you so much for your time, your words of wisdom today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and happy second quarter, happy April. Thank you so much, JD.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, man. Let's do it again.
Yes, I'll hold you to that.
You got it.
Bye everyone. Thank
Take
you.
care.